Welcome back. It's been a busy week for me. Uploading videos, getting stuff installed, now finally having that room set up. In fact, what am I even doing down here? I might as well review up there. Okay, it's probably not for the better. There's still stuff being moved up here as we speak. But at least I'm now finally getting things back to normal in the way they should be. Never mind. Let's get started with episode 10 of Ray Donovan. Now that we have 2 episodes remaining of this season, this week we have Bob the Builder. Okay. Outside of a reference to the show aside, honestly, I seriously have no idea how they pulled this title off. It could be some innuendo joke that I'm missing out on, but it also could be because there's a current thing going on with title references. For Pete's sake, look behind us. We got Shelley Duvall, we've got Breakfast of Champions, Walk This Way, just to name a few examples of the episode title references. And for those who don't know what Bob the Builder is, it's a very old show. Well, it was for kids, little ones at best, but let's get things started with Bob the Builder. I am never going to get that out of my head. Alright, so the episode begins with Ray in his apartment imagining... I have too much in me. The episode begins with Ray imagining what happened in his apartment with Natalie being killed by the ex-boyfriend. But as he's thinking about it and he's being pulled for interrogation, he winds up finding the keys to the boxing club, whatever, in his apartment as he winds up walking out and, yet again, going into interrogation for what has currently been happening with Ray and him keeping Natalie in his apartment. The next thing we see is that Terry drags Bunchy up to the boxing club as they try to of course, clean up the mess that was caused by Acid Man in last week's episode. But as of course they tell Ray about it, and we're going to get into some interesting stuff when this happens. So Bridge winds up sneaking into a neurology conference, convention, whatever you want to say it, as Bridge is trying to find a doctor who should help help this guy out, especially after what Ray did to him in the pre-season premiere episode, which is horses. And I just remembered Smitty, that's his name. I gotta remember that one. The next thing on this list is that Daryl and Mick talk about the aftermath of their partying from last week's episode, and about 3/4 of about half of the episode is about them talking about condoms and just and what happened in the episode last week where they're with the hookers. And if I was partnered right now, this would definitely not be advertiser friendly. But thankfully I'm not. So, of course, Ray winds up meeting with Terry and Bunchy as they go out to the vet and get him patched up, with Ray giving up his blood to Bunchy. And afterwards, they decide to figure out a way to come up with a strategy on how to get the money back from Acid Head. Because as we know from last week's episode, he is completely bonkers off of his head. I mean, he thought, like, Acid Head thought that, Acid Man, he thought that Bunchy was breaking in for his wife or whatever, but that isn't the case of it, really. So yeah, they're gonna have to figure out a strategy on how to get the money back. And that will be resolved later. To continue onwards, Bridge winds up talking to the doctor about Smitty, as, of course, the doctor winds up deciding to talk to Bridge about it. And oh boy, are we in for a surprise when this comes. Mick winds up telling Daryl about not accepting the pay for the version of 4-Leaf Clover they're gonna make. As this winds up getting the actor really ticked off, even to the point of hiring the DA to go and investigate the said situation. So Mick winds up telling Daryl that he's basically not going to accept the version of 4-Leaf that's going to be made, as Daryl winds up with a call from the actor and saying that he's got to report his rear down to him in the studio. While that is happening, Ray winds up getting a temp car so that they could get in there and no DA or FBI agents can get involved. However, this is when things get interesting. So if you remember the episode Horses, how many of you couldn't? Well, anyways, Terry winds up telling Bunchy the truth on what happened to Abby, and again, I'm not tearing up this time. I'm not. Anyways, they wind up telling the truth, and he is quite accepting of it. I mean, that's normally what you don't expect out of somebody like that, to accept one of their family members dead. It's just them being calm, cool, and collective. It's just not normal. So the three of them arrive at Acid Head's home as they try to find leads and evidence on where the money's whereabouts could be. But of course inside the house they have no luck, as Ray winds up going outside and finding the bag buried under a steel, almost, I don't know how to put it, it's like one of those time capsules you wind up burying somewhere, and you wait 50 years or so to try and dig it up and see what your past was like. I would like to know where the location of that Nick time capsule is, so I'd be there for when they open it. Because although I was born in '96, I still know about the Nick time capsule. It's been moved about 2 times already. How many times can you move that damn time capsule? Never mind. He winds up finding the bag buried in a time capsule-like area, but unfortunately Acid Man winds up attacking him, but Ray and Terry wind up coming in to save the day and kill off Acid Man. Daryl winds up agreeing with the actor about it. Daryl winds up agreeing with the actor on how the changes should be still kept intact. However, The DA winds up coming in to talk about the incident, how he's going to wind up blackmailing, how Mick's going to wind up blackmailing the security photos on what happened to his sensei, which this is a big crap load of trouble they're gonna wind up into. Just gotta wonder what happens in those final two. Bungie winds up returning back to his regular normal life as his wife is somehow back. So Bungie winds up returning home as he finds out that his wife got back from a lucha tournament that just happened. Is it going to be explained what happened afterwards? Probably not. Mick winds up trying to get into the studio to be with Daryl and to talk with the guy behind, who's basically going to be in the version of 4 Leaf, Mr. Lucky. However, Daryl winds up coming in and telling him he can't go into the studio because of something big going down. And later in the episode, if you watch it, you'll know why. Bridge winds up being inside the doctor's hotel. Or should I say nurse? Anyone goes. She winds up going into the room and telling the nurse and threatening her to try and get Smitty cured. And as she agrees, she, however, winds up arresting Bridge. And we'll see what happens to her in the final 2 episodes. Okay then. Mickey and Daryl wind up returning to the mansion, or at least the former home of Ray Donovan, as Mick and Daryl wind up talking about the DA's involvement with the blackmailing situation, especially since Mr. Lucky here knows about the slicing and dicing Dexter style of his attack on their the post that they've got going on here. I don't even know the right words, but essentially the DA is getting involved with what is happening with Mickey and how he's just this insane bad who wants things his way, and how he should not tell, or at least threatens him on his movie, and saying, if you don't do it this way, I shall release A to B. Things wind up going down with the DA's involvement between both Daryl and Mick. And of course it comes to a decision, and we don't know if it actually is true, on whether or not Daryl actually is wired with audio in him. We'll never know. Just gotta find out next week. And in the final statement, Ray's a client, Samantha, I almost called myself Sam for a moment. She winds up talking with Ray about a contract for him to go and murder somebody, like one of the studio heads. However, Ray winds up declining the contract as she winds up heading out, and of course Ray just winds up sitting back, relaxing for a bit, and watching some Home Shopping Network. Isn't the first time that Ray winds up sitting and watching Home Shopping Network. One of the earlier parts is just Ray returns from the boxing club after returning Bungie back home. He just sits there in the club, turns on the TV, flips through a couple of channels, and just sits and watches the Home Shopping Network. But they don't call it the Home Shopping Network. It's like, I believe it's LSN. What could LSN be? I don't know. But if Ray Donovan in this world can refer... But if in this world Ray Donovan can refer TMZ as Starstalkers, then I can possibly agree with the idea that it's called the LSN. Despite the fact we'll never know what the LSN will be about. So anywho, that's episode 10, Bob the Builder. And we're in for a treat for this episode. We're in for a treat for the final 2 episodes. Not only is everything suddenly tying themselves together from all the previous 9 episodes that's been building up to this moment, but we're also now down and screwed to a halt. It's not as big and twisted like as the season 4 of Dexter, where John Lithgow's character, I forget his killer name in the series, spent long, and especially, the only thing I can remember is the first season with Dokes and his one famous line. But in the near the final episode of Dexter, and this will go into spoilers here, John Lithgow winds up going to the Miami police building as he goes in and winds up finding out that Dexter, the Dexter he's been talking to on Incognito, is actually the head of the blood splatter analysis group. And he is in deep trouble right there. And still, in one of my favorite creepy Lithgow moments, or it just could be John Lithgow moments entirely, he just looks at it and goes like, "Hello, Dexter Morgan." But let's get back to the story. So now the DA is getting involved with this said situation, especially after Mick winded up blackmailing him. That's definitely going to be called for DA, especially since he obviously pulled off a string of Dexter-like choppings and then threw the body in the lake. Or would that be the sea? Yeah, most definitely the sea. But also, it looks like the killing of Frank Barnes is suddenly going to bite them in the ass. Especially since Ray, in probably next week's episode, is going to have to wind up confessing to what's been happening with the group and why all of a sudden they've got this little situation going on with the for what Mickey has done and of course what has happened in these previous episodes. But Bob the Builder, it kind of is a big twister on this episode, and I do want to see what happens in the final 2 episodes. But we're going to have to wait until next week to find out what happens. But honestly, I'm a bit scared to see what will happen next. But who knows? But anywho, that's 10 episodes down and 2 more to go. Well, whatever your thoughts are on Bob the Builder, comment below, let me know. And if you're just new to Ray Donovan, what do you think about it? Anywho, I am the third guy, and I'll see you guys for an all-new episode of My Little Pony sometime down the line, especially since we're getting close to the end of the season. And with that in mind, I shall see you guys for a new video sometime down the line. But also I got to see Princess Bride in theaters. So with that in mind, I'll see you guys later on.